All right, good morning, everyone. Let's call to order our Board of County Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, January 27th.
Commissioner Stottlemyre,
Present.
Commissioner Harris,
Present.
Chair Waymeyer,
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson,
Present.
Commissioner Dunn.
Present.
All right, and our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
Very
flag
good.
of the United
Flag.
States of America
United States of America,
and to the republic
and
for
to the
which it
republic
stands,
for which stands
one nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
justice.
liberty and justice for all.
All right. The invocation today will be led by Pastor Drew Redding of the Grace Community Fellowship in Ottawa. Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I thank you that you are a God who is with us, a God who is ever constant and present. I pray that your presence would be felt this morning, that you would be granting wisdom to our leaders, that you would be just empowering them to lead well. We thank you, Father, that you are a God who cares, a God who loves. We pray that you would help us to do the same, that you would help us to be more compassionate and more loving to all those around us. We pray, Heavenly Father, that you would just guide us in our daily walk, and that you would show us the way in which you would have us to follow. We thank you that you are working, that even when we can't see you working, we know that you are working, that you are creating change for the good. We thank you for that. And we pray these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you, Pastor.
Welcome.
And correspondence and organizational business, anything that needs brought up under that line, Derek?
No, sir.
All right, any public comment, Janet?
No, sir.
All right, consent agenda, which today would include meeting minutes from our January 20th meeting, minutes from our study session on the 25th, tax change orders in the amount of negative $726.30, and solicitation of bids for noxious weed chemicals. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Don. I make a motion.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer.
Yes. All right, now items of business, the first of which is to review applications for CDBG funds and consider approval and awarding funds. See, Paul Bean, are you on?
Yes, I'm sorry. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am before you today to seek approval for another CDBG CV grant request. This is for Homewood RV in Homewood. And this is a business that has had a negative impact because of COVID to their operations, but they continue, and regardless of how many people they have at their RV park, they still have to provide utility and access and internet and all those types of things. So their costs don't really, they've got a lot of fixed cost in that regard, regardless of volume. And so they've struggled a little bit. They did pretty well and kind of chugged along when the pipeline was being done. They had some business as a result of that, but once those folks were done and left, the business that they normally get really dropped off. So they were seeking assistance. They submitted expenditures to us and to the underwriter. And actually they had qualified expenditures over our $10,000 limit. This is a sole proprietorship. And our limit for this, for sole proprietorships under this program is $10,000. So while they had eligible expenses, actually over $12,000, I'm seeking your approval and permission to grant them $10,000 to assist them with their business. This has been approved by the underwriter that we've contracted with. And so we feel like it's a strong application. Just to give you a quick update, we have supported 10 businesses so far, counting this one, with over $122,000 in grants. And then you may recall, we do pay some of that grant money to the consultant. So what we have left to award after this grant is $4,296.74. So we're about to exhaust this grant program, which is good news that the money is getting out the door and out to these needy businesses. It has impacted 22 jobs in the county. So it's been a positive program. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, I'm not hearing any, Paul, so anyone like to make a motion to accept the attached application for CDBG funds?
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Commissioner Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Thank you,
you.
Paul.
Thank you.
All right, our second item of business is to consider approving a final plat for subdivision. Larry Walrod should be on, or planning and zoning. You on, Larry? All right, I'm going to give Larry a second. Let's jump down to our fourth item, which is to consider for approval the proposed changes to the county's current personnel rules and pay plan. Sherry Maple, our Human Resource Director, should be on.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning. Do you want me to go ahead, or do you want to jump back to Larry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. As y'all remember, at the study session this past Monday, we discussed updates to Appendix D of Franklin County Position Classification and Pay Plan. And more specifically, we discussed updates to the promotion and to the involuntary reclassification policies. So we talked about both changes were just to clarify or give more flexibility in application of the policies. On the promotion policy, we were just adding if an employee has been working out of classification and is then promoted into the position, they would retain the 5% working out of classification increase. And then on the involuntary reclassification, we just added an additional criteria of needs of the business that could result in an involuntary reclassification. So with that, can I answer any questions?
All right. Well, we talked about this Monday, so wouldn't be surprised if there aren't any questions. The motion for this item would be to approve revising the promotion and involuntary reclassification policy for the county's personnel rules and pay plan effective January 27, 2021. Is there a motion to that effect?
It's Don, I'll make a motion.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Don got in there. Thanks.
Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our fifth item would be to consider a resolution which incorporates changes to the county's personnel rules and pay plan.
Okay, and we've made several updates to the personnel rules and pay plan this past year, and this is just to approve a resolution to incorporate all of the changes into the Franklin County personnel rules and pay plan, the actual manual. With the updates that we've made this past year, just a quick rundown. We've added the LPN to our pay plan. We added an administrative coordinator. We changed some pay ranges for positions in EMS. And then we've also changed some policies, our code of ethical conduct policy and the holiday pay policy, and then the two policies we just approved for the promotion and then involuntary reclassification. So any questions on any of those things?
Colt, this is Derek. Before we get into questions, I just want to provide a little bit more info. That LPN position was added as a COVID response position. So we're not expanding our workforce permanently by doing that. The administrative coordinator position is basically my former executive administrative assistant. So that's not a new position either. The code of ethical conduct policy, we literally added that as a requirement for receiving funding as part of COVID. And so just a little extra perspective. I don't want the public to think that we're necessarily growing our number of employees other than what is needed for COVID response. Thank you.
All right, appreciate that comment.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I don't know if we've already done it, but we had also changed some pay scales for our jailers. Have we already included that?
That would have been before I started. I believe that was already included in the last update. I'll have to check though, just to make sure, but I believe so.
And if it hasn't been included in a resolution, then obviously we'll get another one back before you. I believe that we incorporated that one along with the increase that we've given dispatchers, but I'm glad you brought that up, Ian. If that one has slipped through the cracks, then we'll absolutely have another resolution back in front of you.
Thank you.
All right, good question. Anyone else? An affirmative motion for this item would be to approve Resolution 21-05, which incorporates the approved updates outlined in the into the Franklin County Personnel Rules and Pay Plan effective January 27 of 21.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Dunn, second.
Commissioner Dunn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes, and let's hop back up to our second item of business and consider approving final plat for a subdivision.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Sorry for the delay here. My system said I was unmuted, but apparently we had to go back and redo everything. So anyway, the Planning Commission did give consideration to this final plat at their meeting last week, and they did approve this final subdivision plat, creating two industrial lots. This property was, or is, part of the old Martin operation that was purchased by Central RV, and consequently is being sold to two new businesses if the subdivision plat's approved. The Planning Commission has, as I indicated, approved this subdivision plat, and we would ask then that there be a motion to authorize the chair to endorse the final plat as required by our subdivision regulations. I would have nothing further unless any of you have questions on that matter.
All right. Affirmative motion in support of this item would be to authorize the chairman to endorse the final plat of Martin's Addition Second Plat Subdivision located in the northeast quarter of Section 32, Township 16, South Range, East 20 East, accepting all easements and right-of-ways as shown on the plat. And I get a motion.
Commissioner Dunn, a motion to approve.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second it.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. All right. And our third item of business is also to consider a final plat. Larry, go ahead.
This is a final plat that was also considered by the Planning Commission at their last meeting. They did review this and approve it, finding that it did meet all the requirements of our current zoning and subdivision regulations. The purpose for this is to adjust a common boundary between two existing lots to accommodate a structure that was placed over the easements and the property line. That's the common boundary between the two lots. So what this plat does is it replats this, and both parties have agreed to it and signed and endorsed the face of that subdivision plat. And therefore, we would ask then that the county commissioners make a motion to authorize the chairman to endorse the final plat of the Pleasant Valley replat of Lot 5 of the Pleasant Valley subdivision. I would not have anything further unless any of you have questions. What it essentially does is correct an existing situation where we've got a structure that's over a property line and that doesn't work very well.
Glad we'll be able to clean that issue up. So.
Yes, yes.
All right.
This Commissioner Dunn, Larry, is what happens if one of the parties doesn't agree? Then what happens?
It wouldn't have happened. They'd had to tear the structure down because it couldn't go over the easements and it couldn't go across the property boundary. So that was the other option, and they chose to negotiate and do the boundary line adjustment on the common boundary between the two lots. So that's already been negotiated, and that's why I say it was important to get the signatures of both parties that are involved with this particular adjustment.
Thank you.
All right. Well, an affirmative motion for this item would be to authorize the chairman to endorse the final plat of Pleasant Valley replat, Lot 5, Pleasant Valley, and Lot 2, Pleasant Valley replat of Lot 4 subdivision located in the northwest quarter, Section 21, Township 17, South Range, 19 East, accepting all easements and right-of-ways as shown on the plat. Can I get a motion in support of that?
On motion approved.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Commissioner Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move down to staff reports. Derek.
All right. Thanks, Colt. Just a couple of things before I talk about COVID. We just formally incorporated the administrative coordinator position into our personnel rules. and our new administrative coordinator actually started on Monday. I sent you all an email on this, but her name is Amy Hodo, and we are incredibly excited to have her. Amy interviewed exceptionally well, and I think she's going to be a great fit, and certainly based on her interview as someone that I think has the ability to, ascend within the organization. That position is a really interesting one. It is now subordinate to SERI and HR, and will have a number of HR-related tasks. It will also function as my secretary and also the boards to the extent that you need it. And then Amy is also going to help Paul Bean, and so she'll do some work on behalf of FCDC. And obviously, this was discussed in the interview process. And based on everything she said, I think she's going to be able to handle it and do an exceptional job. So obviously, we're still meeting remotely and for good reason. But if you find yourself in the annex, stop in and introduce yourself. I'm sure she'd be happy to meet you. We have been working on the tax sale for quite some time now. As I've said several times, when the pandemic hit, obviously the courts froze for several months. And then once they reopened, they had to reprioritize their caseload to make sure that, they were given priority to things that really needed it. The tax sale slid pretty far down that list. But we finally got our journal entry from the court, and we have the actual sale scheduled. And so that tax sale will be on March 9th. And it'll be at 10 a.m. And we're going to try to do it outdoors. Obviously, March 9th, you could get a wide variety of weather on March 9th. So we will have arrangements made if we need to move it inside. We'll be able to safely do so. But at this juncture, we're going to try to do it on the steps. An interesting tidbit about this sale is that all of those Coves properties in North Ottawa are on it. That's obviously a very good thing, but it made our publication costs astronomical. We spent nearly $7,000 just on publication, because the way the law currently reads, you effectively have to publish notice in a local newspaper as opposed to being able to do it on our website or on our social media, for example, which wouldn't have cost us anything. So just wanted you to know that it was $6,900, I believe, was the exact cost, but we've got that taken care of. And so if you do get questions about that, March 9th, 10 a.m. is your date and time. Any questions about the tax sale before I get into COVID?
No questions. Just a comment. This is Commissioner Dickinson. I wonder when the court or the legislator is going to finally realize that more people have internet than that get the local newspaper. It just doesn't seem like it's a good use of our public funds to do that. But just a comment. That's it.
Yeah. Well, and others on this call would probably know better than me. And Janet, feel free to chime in. I think you follow this fairly closely, but I think nearly every year that is something that gets discussed during legislative session. But I think that, you have pretty powerful lobbyists on both sides of that issue. And one of the things that we hear a lot is that without those publications, particularly from local governments, some of these papers would in all likelihood go under. And so I think that is a lot of it, but it is hard to disagree with your sentiment, Ian. I think we would probably reach more people via the internet, but alas, the law reads what it reads at this juncture. And until that changes, obviously, we'll continue to do what it provides. And so, COVID. So go ahead.
This Commissioner Dunn, Eric, on the Coast property, is it an individual parcels or is it all or none? Or how's that going to work?
Oh, I believe they'll try to sell them as individuals. And that,
Okay.
those properties are interesting because, as you know, for years, they've been in tax sales before, but there weren't any takers because there were special assessments on all of those. And obviously, if you bought them, you would take them subject to those assessments, and so they couldn't sell. I know the city has been working with their bond counsel on a solution to that, and my understanding is that they found it and found a way to remove the special assessments. And so I do believe that those will be a more attractive set of properties at this point. And between now and March 9th, I'll have discussions with the city's bond counsel is Kutak Rock. That's also our bond counsel. I will have discussions with them as well as the city attorney so that my understanding of the legal mechanism that they used, I'll have a better understanding of that and a better understanding of what those properties look like going into the sale. But everything I get told is that the specials will be removed, and so we're optimistic that those will get snatched up pretty fast.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions before I transition? All right, in terms of COVID, and I'll let Nick fill in the gaps here. We ran another great clinic this last Saturday. Again, Dr. Cobbs allowed us to use Ottawa Middle School, their gymnasium. I'll continue to say it. We're incredibly grateful to Dr. Cobbs for that. That's just such a great arrangement for us. Whereas our first clinic, we were able to do 200 shots. This one, we did 290 and just about the same amount of time. Frankly, we think we could probably do another 100 and only have to add a person or two. So we continue to kind of experiment with what our boundaries are. But again, got a lot of great feedback on Saturday. We don't have plans to do another Saturday clinic. I'll tell you, our people are tired. And every Saturday that you sign up for, you're also signing up for another Saturday because we have to do second shots as well. And so I'm going to try to give them a much needed break this weekend, though we are doing vaccines both tomorrow and Friday. In terms of where we're at on the list, and bear with me, and please understand that these numbers are always changing because we have people that call and get added to the list every day. But Don had asked a question on Monday about kind of where we are at in terms of what age of folks are we now vaccinating. And again, that number changes because I know for a fact just this week we've had several 80-year-olds or 80 and above call and get put on the list. But we are right in the neighborhood of doing 77 and 78-year-olds at this point. And for perspective, as of Monday, we had over 1,500 people that were above the age of 65 that we still need to vaccinate. And so we're currently around the age of 77, 78. But if you're older than that and you call, then obviously you take priority and go to the top of the list. And we also still have over 1,500 or so that we need to vaccinate. And so, you know, the next thought is, okay, you have that number. How long is it going to take us to do that? Again, we haven't been doing this long enough to have a concrete grasp on what our volume is, but I think our goal is going to be about 400 shots a week. And that would be, and I don't think we're quite there yet, but that would be 200 new shots, 200 second shots. And so if we can get 200 new shots in a week, and we've got 1,500 or so above the age of 65, I mean, that tells you that it could be, you know, 7-8 weeks before we transition out of this phase of people. And so we hope we're able to do it quicker than that. But there's been a lot of talk about, you know, schools and people under 65 and that next phase. I want all of you to know, I mean, it could be every bit of April before we're there. And so that is really all I have. I will turn this over to Nick, and then once he's through, we'll try and answer any questions that you have. Nick, are you on?
Yes, sir. Good morning, commissioners, and thank you for that, Derek. With what Derek talked about, we did have a very successful clinic. And if you look at the amount of vaccines we've given out so far, we've done a good job getting stuff pushed out as we get it. And that's been the goal, to hopefully show to the state that we can move forward with this and take on more doses. There's been some very positive changes within the state that I'm excited about. The Health Partnership Clinic is a federal funded clinic in our community that was getting the vaccines, and then they were distributing them to us. The state has changed the distribution to where now we will be the ones that are getting the doses, and the state's anticipating that we will get about 200 to 300 a week. As Derek talked about, we've been looking at how we're going to push those out and what it's going to look like. And we did 200, or on one Saturday, we did 290 on another Saturday. I anticipate that we will start giving, we will give those second doses on those days, but we're also going to add to that. So if we can do 400 a week, and then on a weekend we can get an extra 100 to 150, we can push these out, I think, pretty quick. The state also released yesterday the list of places that in our county that will also be getting the vaccine to distribute and what that will look like. Right now, we have 3 locations that will be under federal contract, and they will get the doses from the federal government. We have 5 that are going to be state and underneath us, and we will allocate them doses. And then we'll have 1 that's a combo that they can get it from us or the federal government. So that's going to bring good news, because we'll have other options to help get these individuals vaccinated. But it's also going to become a lot more work, because we're going to have to ensure that all of us are operating under the same guidelines and at the same time, so we don't have one location giving vaccines to a different population or a different area. So it's good to see that we're starting to move forward in locations that can vaccinate, but it also is going to bring that partnership that we're going to have to continue to build with these locations to make sure we're all doing the same thing. So good news came from that. I'm hoping we get those 300 doses. Hopeful that is what they look at doing, and we can get them pushed out to our public. one of the things we are seeing, and I believe I talked a little bit about this Monday, but I want to go through it again. One of the things are we're having people who are searching for their second dose. And there's conversations on the listserv with the state. The state's given no guidance yet on this. But for individuals that get their first dose, they need to make plans to go back to that same location to get their second. So if I get my dose at a hospital in Missouri, then it's my responsibility to make sure I can get that second dose at that hospital in Missouri, because that's how allocations are given. They don't give allocations and then say, okay, here's the allocations for those that got vaccinated elsewhere. They give us the same amount of doses that we give out. So if we give 290, they give us another dose of 290. So we can't break into that to vaccinate the second dose. So it's very important that people know that when they get these vaccines, they need to have a plan for that. We also got some information on the testing. Pomona's tests, that site out there is going to be reallocated to somewhere else in the state. Currently, they're testing less than 10 people a day, and that's not meeting the needs. So Pomona's been open, and it's been open for almost a month longer than Ottawa. They've only done 384 tests. Ottawa has been open for about a month, and they've done 687 tests. So I got an email advising us that they're going to be shutting down the
Chairman of the Planning Commission.
They're going to be shutting down the Pomona location here pretty soon. The good news with that is they have extended us the ability.
Of them that are missing.
Okay.
Hey, Larry. Larry Walrod,
Yes,
will you mute your Zoom, please?
yes.
Thank you.
They have extended the opportunity for the health department to test asymptomatic individuals. So with them shutting down Pomona is not really a big concern of mine. I will tell you that they've with the 304 they've tested, they've had 28 rejected, where Ottawa's had 7 out of the 687. So I think losing one, that's not one I'm going to be upset about. We do have the staff to be able to do the testing here at the trailer in Ottawa, and we can take those appointments as well. So we'll be okay on that. To date, we got 2,093 positives. January, we've had 301 positives. When you talk about positivity rates, this is what we look at for nursing facilities. So far in January, we're at 11.9% positivity. December, we were 24.36, and November, we were 23.45. So we've seen a significant decrease in the positivity rate. The last 2 weeks, we're at 9.68%. With that, the only thing that I can look at and see here is we are down from where we were at last month, about 400 tests that were done in our community. So we're not testing the large population we was in those 2 months, but we are seeing a decrease in the positivities. And the other thing we're seeing is a decrease in the hospitalizations. I think as of yesterday, we didn't have any hospitalized in Advent. So if there is anything that's positive, we're not seeing the sick patients we were seeing before, but we're also not experiencing any large outbreaks like we saw in November and December in our nursing facilities. So some good news to report there. One thing that I do want to point out, Derek talked about the schools and what we were doing with that. We did have a good superintendent phone call with them. Not only were we talking about the vaccine, but we also talked about what prom and graduation could look like. And I believe all of them schools are going to put together a guideline or present to us what they want to do to see if we can make something work for them this year. The other thing that's been a hot topic throughout this has been the spectator list and how many spectators they can have and what cases rules are. So we talked through that with them. So had a good conversation there. Talking about our nursing facilities on Tuesday, we have that phone call. 2 of our nursing facilities got their second doses of the vaccine on Tuesday. So I'm interested to hear how that goes with them and if there's any adverse reactions at that point. But I do believe by the end of the month, we should have second vaccines in pretty much all of our senior living facilities. And that's very good to hear that we're making that kind of progress. Really, with that being said, I'm open for any questions you might have.
This is Commissioner Dickinson, and I asked this at the clinic when I saw you, but I guess I don't understand why the pharmacies are not being able to get more involved. You know, they gave them, we used them to get our nursing facilities vaccinated, and they say that there's shots out there. So, you know, to get the schools vaccinated, why something like that? Or I guess maybe our new administration is working harder on that than the previous one, but to take, I mean, they're there all the time to give them the ability to do that.
I'm glad you brought that up. As I spoke about, we have locations that are looking at getting the vaccine. Walmart, Walgreens, Kramer's, Auburn, those places are on the list. 3 of those are federally on the list to get doses. Where pharmacies are going to struggle to be able to give vaccines to the lay public is that you have to give those vaccines 10 doses at a time. So as soon as you stick a needle in that plunger, that vial is good for 6 hours. If you don't use it within that, it's gone. So they don't have a single dose vaccine out yet where you can just pull a needle out and use it like they do with the flu shot and some of those. It's all in multi-dose vials. So when I talk about the organization and how we're going to have to work with these partners, it brings a whole different dynamic than a flu shot or some of the other vaccines that are given due to the short shelf life after it's punctured. So I'll tell you that we have good partners that we're going to be able to work with, but this information just got released yesterday at 1:14 p.m. to us. So we're going to have to work through it with them, but we do have pharmacies, we have physicians' offices, we have the hospital, all that are going to be partners and able to get these doses from us. But now it just comes into the legwork of how we're going to do it and ensure that if what we see with some of the pharmacies in other communities, I'll use Walgreens, for example. Walgreens gives an initial dose to a healthcare provider in a nursing home. That nursing home, that employee is not there anymore. They call Walgreens. Walgreens, the answer to them is call your health department. We've learned that they can't do that because we don't have that second dose. Walgreens got allocated that second dose. It's their job to do this. And that's where we're really struggling with these people who get that first dose and there's not anything, and the allocations go back to that pharmacy or go back to that location. We're going to have to ensure in our community that if these locations start doing those dosages, that they understand that they're responsible for the second, and it's our expectations that they give it. So that's where we really need to work through with them. But I will tell you, like I said, we've got 9 different locations, 8 plus the health department, that are now authorized to administer this vaccine. Does that help you understand the question or help answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. But one other, just to throw something in, it was my understanding that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is only a 1-shot vaccine. Would we consider moving to that when that becomes available? It seemed like that would be so much better for logistics.
And that's another good question. That is all going to be dependent on what the state of Kansas chooses for us to do. if you look right now, Johnson County just made the transition from giving Moderna to now Johnson County is going to start giving Pfizer. The state worked with them, and that's where they're going, is to the Pfizer, which is good news because there's a lot of people up there that need it, and we are giving the Moderna. So maybe we'll see larger allocations for us. But honestly, when it comes to Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, we are at the discretion of the state and what they're going to give us and how we're going to be able to get it. So I do like the concept of the Johnson & Johnson with the one shot and done, but wherever the federal government and the state allocates that is where we're going to be.
Nick, I want to jump in there before we get to additional questions. I think both of Ian's questions were very good, but it also kind of just exacerbates the point or the fact that we're not in control. And that's what I want the commissioners, and that's what I want the public to understand. Here in Franklin County, Kansas, we don't do the volume to have any kind of say in how this goes. You asked a great question, Ian, about why, pharmacies can't get more involved and why we can't get to schools quicker. And Nick gave a good answer. But I also think that our federal government completely botched this response, completely botched it. I don't think any real effort for the last year has been put into pandemic response. And maybe in the last 2 weeks, we've started to see it, and we've started to see, a semblance of action coming out of Washington. But there should have been a plan in place. Like there should have been some kind of template, and maybe it wouldn't have worked, but there really wasn't. And I have a hard time believing that we can do it here at Franklin County, but they can't do it, at the federal level. But that's where we're at, and we can't change that. Like we would love to immediately incorporate these partners and start pushing these vaccines out, but we don't have the ability to change that. And that kind of the same is said, and Nick hit the nail right on the head. I mean, yeah, Johnson & Johnson, if we get a single shot, that would be fantastic, because so much of the logistics headaches associated with this are having to track that second dose, and it also slows us down because we're having to give 2 instead of 1, but we will never have any say in that. I mean, we will be entirely at the discretion of presumably the state. And so certainly want to take more questions, but I just really want to emphasize how little control we have. We're completely at the whim of the state and federal government on this. Thank you.
Nick. Still in there, Nick?
Yeah.
It's Don. I know you got a million things on your table. Something I thought about and had never brought it up. We haven't done an ambulance write-off in a long time. Have we?
We haven't, and I've got those, and you will see those next week on your thing because I've got them all caught up.
Okay.
So
I know you got a
week-
million. I just want to make sure I wasn't slipping because I couldn't remember doing one in a long time.
No, you haven't, and I will tell you, looking at the revenues, honestly, through the pandemic, and I'm excited to give you that report because we've been seeing them, and we've had a very good year as far as revenues. So I will have that for you guys next week, and that will be a presentation. Plus, I believe the following week I will get you the write-off stuff that we didn't get done for the health department because those are the 2 that we got to get knocked out. But thanks for bringing that up. But no, I have that already slated to be done next week.
I don't mean to add to your job. I just kind of just curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I have one more, not a question, but a comment. I did go to the clinic on Saturday. It was run incredibly well. I know that Johnson County made the news yesterday because they had a clinic for their seniors, and their seniors had to wait in line in the cold. And ours was so well run, and I'm less like, they need to come see how we do it, because you are doing an incredible job with that clinic, as far as socially distancing and just having the appointments and people not having to wait in the cold. And when I was there, it was so nice to see so many of the people that were there, the workers that were wearing their Franklin County, new Franklin County t-shirts that they received. I just think we are doing a great job.
Thank you for that. And I tell you, we've had a great staff, and those clinics, I think, probably touched more people that work for me than we thought. It was interesting to see after the first clinic how many people talked that worked that. And then when we had our second one, how many more people signed up to work it, because it was such a great experience. And it was so much fun seeing those individuals who have spent a lot of the last year barricaded in their houses, scared to death to go out, now finally getting a sense of some freedom. And that has been very, very good experience for us. So I'm glad we're getting there.
All right. Well, you have anything else, Nick?
I don't. Thank you.
I appreciate your update. I believe Paul Bean's still on. Let's see if we can get a FCDC update.
Thank you, Colt. I want to echo Derek. I'm fortunate that I'm right next door to Amy, and really appreciate her being here. She's going to be a great addition. And again, I want to thank the commission for allowing me this wonderful space that I'm in. It's just absolutely fantastic. So thank you for that support. What I wanted to visit with you about today is we do an annual funding agreement with the county and the city. And again, thank you for that tremendous financial support that you give us each and every month of every year. We couldn't do the work we do without that. So it's a blessing, and I'm deeply appreciative of it. When I received the document, it's a joint document that combines the county and the city, an agreement as to how much would be contributed to FCDC by each entity for the year. And one of the sections in there, and I believe you all have this in front of you, is that it indicates that no less than 10% of the yearly contributions of the city and county would be put in a project fund, which is basically our reserve fund. And I'm interested in seeking your permission to adjust that just a bit, and not make it so specific, in the sense that I would prefer that the document would read that when we have a surplus, we will put that surplus into the reserve fund. And if we have a shortage, then obviously we're going to pull from reserve to balance the budget. For a couple of reasons. One, we've had a couple of years prior to 2020 where we had significant revenue at the end of the year over expenses. I think 2 years ago, we had 32,000, which was more than 10%. And the next year, when there was no director at FCDC, there was a surplus of 84,000, which obviously is tremendously above the 10% guideline. If FCDC had followed that guideline, we would have just put 10% of those numbers into the reserve and carried over, or could have carried over, the remainder for the next budget year. I don't think that's in the best interest of the taxpayers. I don't think it meets the intent of what you folks in the city are looking for us to do. On the flip side, when FCDC wants to invest some of that reserve into the programming that we're doing, such as we did in 2020, putting 10% in and then pulling 30% out is really disingenuous in my mind. And that's kind of what the board did this year, per my suggestion, was we spent some money on marketing. We did some research that I shared with you about target industries, so we knew who to target. That was a good fit for us and our workforce. We're revamping currently our marketing materials, and we are rebuilding our webpage, and all of that expenditure came out of the 2020 budget. So as a result of that, even though we had about 73,000 more in revenue last year than the year before, we ran a deficit of about 17,000. That's only because of these extra expenditures that we invested in to better prepare for marketing and moving forward with Proximity Park. So I share that as examples of why I'm seeking that the wording be changed from a fixed 10% automatically going into the reserve to the clear understanding and between FCDC and the funding parties that anytime we have a surplus, that's going to go into the reserve, regardless of how much it is. If it's more than 10%, then it's all going to go in the reserve. It's not going to be subsidizing the next budget year. The only time we would use reserve funds for budget subsidies is exactly what I just shared with you we did in 2020. We felt it was time after about 5 years of not much work on the marketing piece to really reinvest and get ready coming out of this pandemic. So that's a suggestion. That I presented this to the City Commission on Monday. They're reviewing it, and we'll meet again and discuss it further on next Monday. So they haven't decided if they agree with me or not. So I share that full disclosure, and would be happy to answer questions or see what your thoughts are.
And,
I
and
read
Paul,
Go
go ahead,
ahead.
Colt. I'm sorry.
Okay, I say being on FCDC board, I read an email where you kind of outlined some of the merits of this to that board, and I think you really captured it well when you said that this is really just a more transparent, honest way of accounting in words what the dollars will be used for, really have been used for. I think that sums it up well.
Yeah, this is Derek. I would agree. What I want the board to know, I am fully in support of this. What Paul is proposing makes good logical sense. Some years, depending on, what happens in that year, he may have more than 10% to put in there. And in other years, if we decide to make a big marketing push, or FCDC decides to, it could be any number of things, to acquire a piece of land, then maybe that 10% threshold wouldn't be met. But Paul has proven in his short time as FCDC director that he knows what he's doing. He is the one that is down in it every single day. He is the one working that budget. I certainly think, his recommendation here should carry a lot of weight. And so I support that. We're not looking for a motion today. I mean, we'll put the actual agreement with the new language in front of the board. But my question is, do any of you have any concerns? Because I would like to be able to give Paul the thumbs up from the county end so that we can at least get this in writing. So are there any concerns about this?
When we do this, Derek, I know we have to, but will it be a combined thing that us and the city have to do the same thing at the same time?
Don, that's an exceptional question, and I'm glad you asked. And one of the questions that's been brought to my attention is there a reason why the city and county are part of one agreement, why there's only one agreement? For example, we both give money to Prairie Paws, but we have separate agreements there. And so, if we continue to do a joint agreement, then both parties would have to agree. But I think it's at least a worthwhile question to contemplate. Do we need to do a joint agreement with the city, or can we just have individual agreements with FCDC like we do some of our other community partners? Paul, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think, just to your example of Prairie Paws, I think there's some logic to the separation. If there's different thoughts, again, I don't have a response from the city. They may say they want that 10%, which in that case, if you all are supportive of my recommendation, then I would certainly suggest strongly that we have 2 agreements. I think another element for the 2 agreements, it might make some sense to include in the agreement with the county, the generosity that you're providing with office space and support staff and those types of things, so that that's fully recognized in a public document as well. So I kind of am leaning today toward recommending 2 separate agreements, but again, I have not got a response from the city as to what their thoughts are. And I could certainly, when they revisit this on Monday, have that discussion with them as well.
This
I
is
could
Commissioner
imagine.
I understand the deal about separate, but as long as both parties would agree to this, I think it's best that, because you don't want just 1, 2, and 1 not. And then what do you do with that 10% of what? It can only be 10% of what we donate, not 10% of what the city donates. So we want to make sure we catch both entities at the same time if we can.
This
Right
is
or
Colt.
wrong?
I could imagine, just like we did the industrial park project in Ottawa, and obviously both parties were involved in that. But with the growth happening in the northeast part of the county, maybe Wellsville or something like that pops up, and we want to partner with them. Obviously, Ottawa wouldn't be involved in that, and it may be easier to go ahead and do 2 contracts now. In case something like that does pop up, it doesn't have to be, altered, or it's one less thing to do to them. It's just a thought there.
I don't see nothing wrong. I just want to make sure we think it over real hard, because I don't want it to be us and them. I want it to be us if we can.
Ian, you were trying to speak, I think. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my question was basically Don's, was that can you have one agreement from one party that says yes and an agreement from the other party that says something else? That seems like then you get into all kinds of gray areas. Yeah, it's better to work together, but definitely I'm in agreement with it just because we have such great leadership. That I don't know what happens if you have different leadership and all of a sudden it's like it becomes an issue. But at this point, I absolutely trust our leadership.
This is Don again. I guess my point is I'm the only one that 100% of this lies outside of the city of Ottawa. So if anybody had an itch, it'd be me. But I don't. I've seen too many years of us and them, and I like the idea about us, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, Paul, do you want to, it sounds like the county is supportive of the change in language. And so maybe the next step would be to just see how this plays out with the city of Ottawa, see whether or not they are supportive of this. And then in the event that they're not, then maybe we can revisit this discussion at that time.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, Derek. And like I said, they're going to discuss it again on Monday, so I can share this conversation with the city, and we can move forward accordingly as you wish after that. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think what you can take from this meeting is that the county supports the language change, and certainly feel free to communicate that with the city so that they are aware.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Sheriff Richards.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Just want to start by voicing my appreciation also for the health department on the rollout of the vaccine. I've talked with my my cohorts in other counties across the state, and they're still trying to figure out how to make things happen for first responders still. And I believe we've pretty much got that covered here already. And as you've heard, the rollout's going well. So I just wanted to voice my appreciation as well. The second thing I have, and I don't want to bring this up to try to tout how gracious my staff and my office is with things, but in November and December, we do a No Shave November, No Shave December to raise money. And every year we do, we donate that to a couple different causes. And one of those ended up being publicized as far as with a donation that we had made. But we always try to find a local nonprofit. And the reason I bring this up is because I want to highlight the good work that is being done there. We made our second donation to a program at Hope Anthem Church. They have a jail ministry that we have partnered with them, and the feedback that we've had from our inmates has been just phenomenal. And we see benefit of it in our facility. But they've taken things a step further as well. They did some things with a back to school program where they were able to provide backpacks and supplies and materials to the children of some of our inmates. And they did the same thing at Christmas time. And I just wanted to acknowledge that they're doing good work over there that's benefiting a segment of our society that oftentimes gets overlooked, and we wanted to help support that. And so to Pastor Yancey and his crew over there, just want to say kudos and thank you for what you guys are doing. And then the last thing that I have is that I've mentioned before that the Deputy Aaron Miller has kind of taken it on himself. He seeks out some grant opportunities that exist through typically these are private organizations, and we've been a beneficiary of some of those. That's what we got AEDs for all of our vehicles, and we had another grant where we got some additional bumpers for the fronts of our cars. So but this week we did receive a grant check from BNSF. And the purpose of that grant is to buy ballistic helmets for our staff. And so something to help keep our guys a little safer when they're out on high risk incidents. And again, that's going to be paid for by a grant from the railroad. So I appreciate their generosity, but also the work of Deputy Miller with seeking those out and taking care of those for us, and getting us some equipment that we may not have otherwise had the opportunity to get. So just wanted to say thank you to him. And with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
All right, well, we appreciate the update, Sheriff.
Yep.
David Lee, Public Works.
Good morning, Commission. So on Monday, we started retreating all of our hard surface roads in anticipation of this week's weather events. We thought maybe there was going to be some moisture or snow come in Monday night. That didn't happen, but certainly this morning early, we did receive from a skiff of snow to just a little bit more than that up in the north and west portions of the county. Our crews were out again this morning treating our road systems, and we'll work on that throughout the day. With the temperatures the way that they are, we should get some benefit through the afternoon hours, but if they drop down into the teens tonight, the roads will be slick again in the morning. But that shouldn't last terribly long with the temperatures rising back up above freezing later on tomorrow. So we just ask that the folks slow down and allow a little additional time to get where they need to go. And we will continue to work on the roads as we go here. From regular work, since last week, our road and bridge crews finished a ditching project on Labette, just west of Eisenhower. We got a call from the landowners regarding that work. They were very pleased with the outcome of that and the way that it looks. We've actually had a few of those types of calls here in the recent weeks. Crews also fixed a washout on a bridge near Hamilton, just west of Colorado. Removed a big tree on Ohio, south of Douglas. It took a while to get cut up and moved out of the way. We repaired a double set of CR crossroad tubes on Riley Road, just east of the railroad tracks. Patched potholes on some of our asphalt roads. And then, unfortunately, we had to have crews out a couple of different times on Saturday, replacing stop signs that down around Williamsburg that have been knocked over. A couple of different times we went out and fixed them, and then we're called out again to take care of those same signs. So somebody down in that part of the country is damaging our signs. So we try to keep up with them. Additionally here, let's see, the new Montana Road project or bridge project should be wrapping up, should be open to traffic hopefully by the end of this week. I'll take part in a final walkthrough with KDOT, the City of Ottawa, and the contractor tomorrow to kind of go over punch list items, but we anticipate that road to be open to the public by the end of the week. And finally, the fuel island that we have been working on for, well, it seems like the entire time that I've been here, that fuel island should be back open here in the next day or so, and we should not have any more issues going forward. At least that's our hope. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, thank you for the update, David.
Thank you.
All right, Janet.
Good morning, Commissioners. The only thing I have this morning is I did listen to the tax hearing yesterday in the House of Representatives of the state of Kansas, and that's the tax bill that we talked about last week. Like I said, I just listened to it because we already had a lot of testimony going in from other sources. So we actually had Mayor Kaler from the City of Ottawa submitted testimony, both written and oral, on the meeting. We also had Jay Hall from KAC, a representative from Sedgwick County, and Trey Cocking from the League of Municipalities, and also our legislative liaison for the County Clerks Association was on that call, and all gave testimony. All of them gave neutral testimony because all of them believe that there are some really great things about this. Obviously, removing the tax lid that presented a lot of challenges for us, and also kind of added a lot of negative incentives to keep the tax lid inflated. So all of these organizations felt like removing the tax lid was the biggest thing. They did all offer ideas for amendments that they want to see happen before they would change their support to be positive towards it. Several of them did offer that we wanted to add new improvements, and Mayor Kaler spoke directly to our point about our new industrial park, Proximity Park, and how important it was for us to recoup those costs that we've already incurred for roads and other infrastructure by capitalizing on new improvements. And she did point out to those representatives on the committee that the state is going to get to capitalize on new improvements every year without a hearing, without a notification, and they're not giving us the same benefit that they're taking. So Mayor Kaler did specifically point out to them that keeping the playing field equal was really important. So adding those new improvement values. Sedgwick County especially pressed really hard on the mailings and the fact that that's going to be a really high cost If you think about that, if the county increases even 1 penny above what we levied the previous year, we would have to do a mailing to every single one of our properties. And so essentially we'd be doing another mailing costing the same amount as it costs to mail out our tax statements every year. So that's unexpected cost to us. And most of these individuals pointed out that this plan takes effect this year, and we have not budgeted for that additional cost this year, not to mention the fact that we don't have our software set up yet to get this information out. And I think Jay Hall at KAC and the County Clerks Association really hammered that to the committee, that there's going to be so many regulations in this specifically to the county clerks, and it's not up to us whether we could get these in place in time. It's up to our software vendors. So we've got to have time to do that. So hopefully some of these changes are going to happen, adding new improvements in there, which Utah, which this program is modeled after, does allow for new improvements. Changing the way we do mailings, possibly sending out like a postcard instead of sending out a detailed mailing. Like you guys were talking about earlier, most people have access to the internet one way or another, but sending out a postcard saying, this is where the information is available on the internet. You can go there and look at it. If you don't have access to the internet, call us and we'll send you the detailed mailing that you are requesting. So that way we don't have to absorb those costs of expensive mailing. And also just a delay in implementation of this program so that counties can be prepared. You know, there's 105 of us that have to get this software ready. And our Senator Tyson, she talked to me about it and said, you know, it's pretty easy. You just don't levy over the dollar amount that you did the previous year. And I agree with her that saying that is simple, but as far as your county clerk, I have to submit that out to all of the taxing entities in the community, all the cities, all the townships, all the cemetery districts. And so actually preparing something for them will be a difficult task if our software doesn't allow for that. So hopefully the committee takes these changes into consideration when they work the bill and turn it out to the floor of the House. So basically what they're hoping for is that the committee will make changes and the House will approve a different version of the bill in the Senate, and that it can go to a conference committee where we can get something that's workable out of this. So still continue to work on that a lot. So, and I would answer any questions you have.
All right, well, thank you for the update on that hearing. And we'd definitely be interested in the outcome of that. Let's go down to commissioners' comments, board reports. Dawn?
Yeah, I probably will send shortly to Wellsville meeting tonight. I'll just kind of give my presentation and leave. I don't hang around for the whole meeting normally due to all the concerns. The only thing this Friday, the Solid Waste Authority is going to have a special meeting of the officers, and we're going to discuss redoing our bylaws with having Shay in there, a new person to look everything over, plus with all the COVID issues, meetings, and so forth. We're going to discuss changes to be made in our bylaws to compensate for some of the issues we're having, and that's basically it. That's all I have.
All right, I am.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. Besides going to the vaccination clinic, I did not go anywhere this week. I would just like to emphasize to our constituents that it is not too late to get on the list to get your vaccination. I think the information is on our county website, and I don't think anybody has said that today, but there is no cost to getting your vaccination. So if that was something that you were worried about, please don't. Make sure that you get it if you need it. And that is all for me.
All right, Roy?
Yes, this is Commissioner Dunn. I stopped by the clinic Saturday, and everything that Diane said was I could just reiterate that, and also appreciate the volunteers from the family health physicians too that volunteered. So really a good operation. I really appreciate everybody that helped with that. Also, I went to Area Agency on Aging policy board meeting yesterday morning, and we have a change of the guard there. Elizabeth Maxwell is retiring after 28 years, and her family was there, and we presented her appreciation plaque and wished her well. And Leslie Rockers is going to take her position, and she's all lined up, ready to go, and we wished her well on the transition. So that's the big news from Area Agency on Aging. Besides, just one other thing, that they got the concrete poured for the delivery van garage out there at the nutrition site there in the North Industrial Park, and it's going to be an all-metal building, and it's going to be erected here pretty soon. So that project's going along good, and Elizabeth really appreciated what Franklin County did as far as the carrots donation that Franklin County gave that replaced transmission on one of their delivery trucks, and also provided a bunch of meal packs that they could give out that would last about 4 weeks. And she also mentioned that Miami County gave them 2 new vans, so their fleet now is pretty well updated and in good shape, so that's a good thing for them. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
All right, thank you. Rod?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, Cole.
All right, I don't really have anything I need to tell the board about. So with that, we're at the end of the meeting. Derek, anything come up? Anything you think of before we adjourn?
I don't believe so. Thanks, Colt.
All right, then let's look for a motion to adjourn from someone.
Mr. Dunn, motion to adjourn.
All right, who'd like to second?
Don got
Commissioner
it.
Harris.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All right.
Adjourn. Thank you, everybody.